All right, sweet. So we wanted to do something different tonight. I invited a good friend of mine, Hugh Halter. Thanks for joining us, man. And we've started a little bit of a conversation around the future of what church is going to look like in kind of the COVID world that we're in, especially 7 months in or whatever, 8 months in. And we started talking the last few days about how the New Testament talks about how the church scattered and how leaders like Peter and James still led people in those type of environments. So anyway, I thought that'd be a good place to start, but honestly, like just a Q&A with you feels like it'd be helpful for us.
Cool.
But maybe we can start with some of the scattered.
Have you guys been talking about that for a while?
No.
All right.
I brought it up like yesterday.
I did a little research today because I was intrigued by the concept. And so, yeah, Peter, indeed, you're right. He was talking, we think Peter was in jail in Rome. By 2 Peter, we think he was thinking he was about to die, which he was. So he was writing a letter. This little prancy prance noise in my kitchen are my dogs wanting to go out. Honey, I got that. Just hold on just a minute. Stay there. All right, last time.
So
Yeah, my daughter's, hopefully that wasn't awkward. My daughter's dog bit one of their foster kids, so it's now our dog. So we call him Prancy Prance. He has to go out about every 15 minutes. I don't know what the problem is, but anyway, when he barks, we'll let him in again, and then I think that will be it for the night. But anyway, so back to Peter. He was indeed talking to individual people scattered all over the place, without Zoom meetings, without internet, isolated, truly isolated. So I was thinking what a miracle it was that God got those people through that. I do find myself sucking my thumb at times, going like, we're 8 months into this thing, and it looks like it could be maybe another year, they're saying. And thinking, oh, I can't make it. There's no way I can make it. But, I think just the intro to this is that, man, people have had it way worse than what we're going through right now. But this is the first time we've had a pandemic in our lifetime. So that is a big deal. So clearly we haven't grown muscles for this type of thing. But beyond that, I was checking into beyond Peter. Most of the other epistles were written within about a 20-25 year span. And so it's not just in Peter, like most of Paul's writings, he would have been talking to very disconnected groups that are trying to kind of figure it out without any of the, imagine Peter having to write a letter, hoping it gets to a few friends and that they pass it on. So if you were trying to lead a movement, man, I think it would have felt like nothing's going on. So, first thing I was thinking about tonight is like, we should probably be pretty thankful that we have community and we can find each other and spread information and stuff like that. So that was just like intro thought. But I do think it's gonna be a long time. I actually do. I think we're at the 40 to 50 yard line right now. So, and I'm, at least in our state, well, you guys, you're Democratic governor, we're Democratic governor. So I'm fully expecting that after the election that they might go to a complete shutdown. So that means I would freeze my whole business. I would shut the doors. I'd tell the staff, good luck, I love you. They all live within 2 blocks, so we'll still see each other. But I'm kind of mentally planning on a business close down. But I'm also planning a lot of ministry movement stuff. So it's a good time to talk about it.
It's great.
There's the good news.
Yes. What are some of the things that came up today from kind of exploring some of the scattered leadership of Peter and others?
Yeah. The biggie was that, I'm thinking, Peter's not that old. We're thinking, I mean, he's probably younger than me, but if he's on his last leg, it was interesting that he actually mentions Rome as Babylon. He uses the name Babylon. He's actually referring to them as as the empire. So, the stuff that we might be even feeling or thinking politically right now. So he's trying to help them. They're all scattered and they're under the empire rule. And the first thing he talks about is their identity. Like the whole first book is about who they are. So if you try to think about how you hold a movement together, the biggest thing is that everybody in the movement like knows things about themselves and about who the community is. So I wrote a couple down. And if you go through it, he's actually talking like in the language, he's referring to all of his Jewish upbringing to give them metaphors for who they are. Who he's writing to are not Jewish people. So they would maybe not have caught all this, but he said like, you're a new holy people unto God. He says, he refers to the new Exodus. He's trying to give them the picture of there was the old Exodus where God brought us out. Now he's bringing you through it again. Through it is you're living under the empire. You're getting your ass handed to you daily, but you're coming through. God's actually delivering you. So just know you're part of the people of God. He then says there's a new covenant. It's now an issue of the heart. So you don't need the books or the organized religious systems or gatherings to hold you guys together. You're now people of the heart. So if God has written something on your heart and your mind, like you can travel with that and you can share that and you can hold people together with that. Then he calls them the new temple. Remember that? So, March 15, all the churches in America stopped gathering. And I was asking a group the other day, as we were talking about this, I said, and maybe you guys should think about this, like, most of you are like 13 or younger, like, what are you guys, mid 20 somethings? But can you think of a time where God stopped something bad from happening to you? Like where you feel like he interacted with you to stop something bad? Like anybody just wave a finger if so we do as believers, we believe that God interacts in our affairs, lots of protection. It could have been that you were almost wiped out in a car accident or whatever it is, but you kind of had a sense that no, I think somebody's watching after me. Well, think about that on March 15. God sees all this. Prior to this, there's some cats out on a ocean liner off the coast of California. We're hearing about them on the news. We're going, oh, those poor little people got stuck on the cruise ship. But we had no idea. It was all coming ashore, and God knew it. And he knew that all of his churches all over America were going to stop meeting, and he didn't stop it. So it gives you a little sense that maybe there's more at play. I think Peter was tapped into that. There's a lot bigger story going on here. If it keeps going longer, my sense is it's under the hand of God. Like it's not catching him unaware. And he's sort of trusting his people to get clear on their identity. So like, you don't have to freak out about this at all. This is totally under the sovereign hand of God. So you guys are the new temple. You're not going to need any buildings anymore. Fortunately, you might have a CrossFit gym a lot longer than people might have a church building. So be thankful you got any doorway to walk into and see each other, but you wouldn't need it, even if the old CrossFit couldn't handle it financially. You could still hold together as a movement just fine. And then at the end, he calls them kingdom of priests. So, that's 5 identity checks. I would say leading church, I'd say most Christians, at least by the way they're acting right now, trying to get back to church, that they would rather go back to Egypt. That's actually what they're, hey, just let's go back to church. So we don't have to be the priests anymore. Let's go back to church so we don't have to be the temple. Let us go back to church so we don't have to have something written on our hearts. We can just have somebody preach at us. So, man, when you're unclear on your identity, then yeah, you should freak out and, want everybody to do everything for you. But if you think about what Peter is trying to do, he's trying to like grow us up and go, grow a pair. Like, God's got this, but he needs you out there with confidence and not, freaking out and anxiety. He needs you guys to be peaceful. The apologetic of the gospel is like a peaceful, confident people who know who they are, right? So I don't know. To me, there's some pretty major upsides to this.
So another thought, how would you, or how are you thinking about mentoring people spread out? Obviously, Peter wrote a letter and wished the best.
Yeah.
What are you thinking about?
Well, I think what you guys are doing is key. If it keeps going, we got tired of webinar stuff, but we'll do some. I'm sending out video teachings. Anybody in our community, if they feel like they have a word, we've got everybody on an email link. So kind of a text email link. So really simple. Somebody might just have a word of encouragement. It just goes out to everybody. So it's not like there needs to be a leader. Anybody in the community can speak or share a thought or share a need. We've had about half of our community has got COVID. They're all very young. So, it's almost like we've had to figure out week by week, where the meal train is going to go. So we literally have had probably a 6-month meal train going because we've had so much sort of need in our community. So yes. So a little, connection like that, but I'm kind of gearing up to just start meeting with people again, just in small groups. So I still feel like what would hold the movement together is when we all take responsibility for like 2 or 3 friends and we just lock in and we say at least once a week, we're going to see each other face to face. I think the face to face, as long as you're well and even with 2 or 3, it's going to be maybe out in the back patio around a fire or something. I'm not going to lick anybody's face. We're going to try to be responsible even in small groups. But I think right now, man, if it goes another 50 yards on this thing, I think people are going to need people. And I think we just got to do that. So.
What about with, like I was also talking about, kind of the issue that popped up in Acts 6 when people are getting neglected, not taken care of, which is inevitably going to happen. Like, obviously the core of even our community does feel like we get to meet face to face, but there's a lot of people we don't see. And it's really hard to be neighborly right now when people are afraid to be face to face. What are some of the things that you've been thinking about with caring for and taking care of people?
At least in our deal, a lot of our people have just brought needs of people they know up. And so it's more just to keep the communication going. We've got a young girl right now that's been in our community and struggling with an eating disorder, and she's out in Washington, D.C. It's like every single person, we kind of know what they're struggling with right now. And we know the ones that are strong. So I don't, I just think it's to be aware. I suppose if you just were used to going to church, you would call the church hotline if you had somebody in need, right? But this, you just call each other and like go take care of it. I think that's kind of been our mode of operation. But it does help, like that silly little email chain, at least, I don't even respond most of the time. I just see what's going on and, I might weigh in a little bit, but it's almost as if when somebody brings up a need, you kind of watch and 2 or 3 people take care of that need. and then the next time it's some different people or whatever. So, I can't think of anything that I would call, kind of a unique way to do that. If I live in a neighborhood, I have walked even down my street. Most of my street are like old people. So I wouldn't like put them, say they're part of my missional community. I just feel like I'm like the young guy on the street. So, I'm always walking around, and if I see somebody, I'll go, hey, you guys doing okay? You need anything? So I think if you live in an actual neighborhood, you could freak people out, knock on doors and go, hey, I just live in the neighborhood. Want to make sure we're just trying to get a sense of any needs that are going on. You could go that route, but I think if you're staying in contact with 2 or 3 friends that you take responsibility for, they'll probably need some things. So I think if everybody just went, okay, let's not just hang together as a tight little missions community, but let's still do this, but let's all add a little responsibility and carry some weight of some of our friends. And then maybe even with those friends, we used to have a rule whenever we had sort of a Jesus time, whenever we would eat a meal together and kind of enjoy fellowship with other believers, we would always ask, do any of our friends have any needs, any people we can help out? And then every time we would ask that for 14 years, somebody would say, yeah, I got one this week. And then we would try to sort of the inside deal was that we would try to meet the need within 24 to 48 hours. So if it was a financial need, we just rally money up. If it was a time need, or they had a daughter in the hospital, we just figured out ways to encourage them. We weren't trying to, save the day. We were just trying to encourage people through their struggle. Every once in a while, we save the day, So not rocket science, but
It all sounds pretty simple.
yeah.
I want to give space for other people to ask anything they're thinking about. I just have one more question that might be a little off topic, but I'd love to hear what you're thinking. So be thinking about a question, guys, if you have anything coming to mind. But last thing for me would be, if you ended up getting a facility, because I think that could happen for us, what would you do with it?
Easy. Turn it into a casino. The only thing making money right now is little, video poker stuff. Just make some cash. No, bad answer. Man, I think, what we've been talking about, Anton, is like some sustainable business, some benevolent social entrepreneurship, and a apostolic hub, what we call a convergent zone where people can be together. So, that's why we did the Post Commons. It hit all of those. It was business. It was kind of the relational hub for our city, and lots of cool stuff came out of it. So I think when you can hit the trifecta, I'd shoot for the trifecta, and I would keep maybe the Jesus stuff more of a subversive, what you do inside the building, but not draw attention to it. We do gather in our building, but when we do, it's through the side door. So we call it the side door community. We don't want to necessarily open it up to the public right now. And that's just kind of based on our context. But we're afraid, honestly, we're kind of afraid of Christians right now finding us, because I don't know if they're cut from the same rug that we are. So we try to keep the Jesus gatherings for the disciples, the ones that are we're grafting into our community, which it's not big. It's 40, 50 people right now. So.
Any other questions from the crew?
Yeah, I was just thinking as you were talking, Hugh, that I think we have some people who do feel like the one or two that we could, check up on. I even have like a couple in mind that are not necessarily like desiring. So what do we do we just do the same thing with them?
Yeah, I think you do. I think, if they're on your heart, I think you stay consistent. Until somebody tells you, hey, we're good, like quit freaking us out. But if they're really on your heart, I don't think, I've found, especially with your generation, this is not a slam on your generation. I've just found that your generation does not have the confidence that older generations did. Like if I wanted help, I would go to people and ask them for mentoring. And I just find it's very rare. So people oftentimes will feel like they want something. I've even went to some of the younger people in our community and I kind of get cranky with them. Like, why don't you ever call? And they go, well, we figure you're busy. It was like, no, we're old people. Like nobody invites us over. We're like lonely. Like, so I just don't just assume that in people's initial response that they're not looking for help. I think you will know friends though that you know are hurting, going through depression, or there's got to be a ton of employment issues, people just not having work. But I think the depression, the loneliness issues are always going to be out there. So
Good. What else?
by the way, don't overthink the helping people. The thing that I say most often, I'll go, hey, Anton, man, you've been on my heart a lot. I'd love to just have some time with you this week. You got any time? And I'll say, hey, I'll buy coffee. I own a coffee shop. So that's how I judge. If they go, yeah, man, I'd love to, then it's not weird to get together. When we get together, all I do is say, yeah, just tell me how you've been doing. Like, and I just try to ask a lot of questions. I try not to really say much unless they ask me, but I just, and then I don't try to do an hour meeting. I try to do 30 minutes. Okay, cool, man. Thanks for the time. Maybe I won't worry about you as much. You seem to be doing good. Or if they're hurting, I go, hey, I don't mind doing this every week if you just want to touch base. And got a few other friends we're doing this too. So if you want to jump in with us. So it's just very simple life conversation that you're inviting people to. I don't know if I've ever had anybody say no in like 30 years. So I think people will want your time.
Yeah, I think that's helpful model just because I think I get stuck not in the initial ask, but then trying to be like, do these people need a weekly thing or did they just need a touch point? Do they need, consistent or not? And I think maybe they'll just tell you, hopefully.
Yeah, and I'm an introvert, so I've probably told you guys I don't like people at all. So I'm not looking for weekly. I don't want everybody to want a weekly, but I want if they say, man, it was great. I really appreciate knowing that you're thinking of me. Yeah, I'd love to get together. Then do that, but it's also, it gets smarter as you think about movement. You just get more movement when you're with a handful of friends versus ones all the time. So if you I don't want to use the word discipling people because sometimes it doesn't feel like discipling. You're just holding friends together around good conversation. And, maybe at the end, if they're not believers, you're just having a toast over them at the end of the meeting. It's just, hey, so I'm toasting to you that this week would be encouraging this week, that you have, little bits of sunshine come through the darkness you've been feeling. And so it's just, toast a lot. And toasts are your prayer, right? God knows you're praying over them. But yeah, so don't try to lock in, 11 people for weekly meetings or you will lose your mind. Did you know people are wacky? Have you guys figured that out yet? You can only, the reality is you can only do, this is like, you would learn this when you're a little bit older, outside of your significant others, your best friends, or your family, you can only manage about 2 to 4 other relationships that you're giving into. You just can't go beyond that. So when you're thinking about movement, don't be thinking about trying to reach 30 of your friends. Try to think about a small group of 3 to 6 people that keep an eye on a few friends. And I think it'll be more manageable.
That's good. Anything else? What else is you guys thinking about?
Hugh, I'm just curious how y'all have, I mean, you kind of mentioned Empire in First Peter. But I'm just curious how that's looked like for y'all out in Alton. I mean, especially considering how close in proximity you are to Ferguson and all of that,
Yeah,
and what that's looked like for specifically like the believer community that you're in, you know.
well, I mean, you guys are probably running into this, but the Midwest has obviously a lot of conservatism. Alton is a pretty progressive town. 'Cause we're 40% African American, so you know, it probably runs 50-50 Democrat, Republican. But the Democratic side would be very poor. They'd be, you know, a lot of African American folks. So not a lot of access to get in their big, huge pickup trucks and put flags on the back and then do a 30 truck loud drive through Alton, which they did today. I thought that was super weird. And not even because I don't have some political leanings to their side, but I put my hand out the window as they were all driving by honking, and I made a thumbs down position and honked, and two of the big trucks circled back around. They pulled off the convoy and pulled up next to me so that I can open my doors. So we just had a little chat, but I'm not good at peaceful protesting. So I'll tell you, I came home pretty ticked off today because I felt like it was an intimidation play by one side. So there, you know, it could be more tense than we think. Yeah, you know, and I'm from Portland, so I know you guys are Whackville. I get it. Like my family still lives there, so I hear everything. I come over there a lot, so who knows what the heck's going to happen in Portland. You guys lead the country on craziness, so congratulations on that. We're trying to take our cues from you guys.
It's true.
But I do think Tuesday would be a good day to be a praying community. I'm not even praying regarding the vote. I'm just praying about just straight violence to innocent people, you know. But I think the evangelical side of the church right now in conservative places has taken on a really bad posture, just not helpful. So.
Yeah, that's kind of like along the veins of like where I've been thinking a lot about you. So I just, since we had you, was just curious your thoughts, because I just feel like whatever the outcome, you know, I was just curious what you were thinking, like as far as protecting like our friends of color, you know, and I really just like think about that a lot. So I didn't know if
Yeah, my son-in-law is African American, and now I've got a African American son or grandson, 3 weeks old. So, you know, our whole family, we've sobered up as we've been not exposed to it. I mean, we pastored a African American church in Portland. So it's been an issue with our family our whole lives. We actually moved to Alton because of specifically black-white issues. But I'm pretty bummed out about it. There's a guy, it's one of our few business owners that's African American here in town. And, you know, I run by, see him about once a month, and had somebody else in our community talking with him today. And, you know, he just was, and he's probably one of our most powerful kind of influential Black men. And he's just really distraught. He feels like he just needs to go away for a month. I don't know if it's because he doesn't trust what he would like to do because of this, but yeah, I think it's a time to continue, you know, and I know you guys have been. I've been watching your community and what Anton has, I think he's led very well to really dive into this. I feel like it's at the second quarter. I feel like we all jumped in for that 2 months together, and then it's been pretty quiet the last month or so. I think it's going to heat up again. And even after that subsides, I just think we have to remember that anybody on the margins, specifically African American, are going to feel and especially if it goes Republican, are they're just going to feel very lost in this thing. So just like we feel lost as people in a pandemic, there's a few extra boulders on some of our brothers and sisters of different colors. And the answer, though, is to just do more of what we talked about, just to be present with them. I don't say much when I'm with them. I just like to drop by, see how they're doing. Let them know that they're on my mind. I'll probably do something specific for this brother Tuesday, because I know there's a handful of brothers and sisters that I'm going to just make some relational play to on Tuesday. But they know, even if it doesn't go Republican, they know that's not going to fix it. So nobody's expecting anything to get fixed with the political scene. I think most are putting their helmets on, just hoping that we can get through the first 2 or 3 weeks of this without too much really terrible, evil stuff. So yeah, I just think it's to be a prayerful community this week, which also you guys have been doing really, you've been praying. So I think, from looking at, and Anton and I talk quite a bit, I just think, you guys have been a faithful presence in your city, and you guys have actually taken some pretty good arrows in your back during this for, other issues. And I think that's exactly what Peter was talking to. So again, it's nothing new and nothing to be afraid of, but he did seem to put his hope, and he tried to get the people's hope on the return of Christ to make all things right. And so there has to be a little bit of a humility regarding life and death, that we don't take our lives. And this is easier for a 40, whatever I am, 54, because, I'm over the 50-yard line. So when you start thinking about why, and what to think about life, it's harder when you're younger and you're trying to build a life. It's a little bit easier for those of us that we've already built our life, and it's easier to think about laying life down. But I think Peter was writing to people roughly your age. Most people didn't live past 35 back then. So they had this, Peter was constantly trying to go, look, it's okay. King Jesus has this thing. He's sovereign over all this. Biden and Trump are little itsy bitsy pawns under his hand. He's doing deeper works in the hearts of his world. He's trying to, he's not trying, he's getting at bigger issues, and we got to trust him and go along with it, and not lament that we may not be able to build our lives right now. Because I know COVID makes you feel like you can't plan, and so then you get depressed. Don't. God is just as sovereign over your life and knows exactly where he needs you to be, and there might be some adjustments to it, but I think you got to try to not hold on to life. I'm not talking about just physical life, just your plans and your dreams of having the perfect life. Just like let it go. The Lord knows what he's going to do with you guys. And each one of you is a priest, which means he has a role to serve in his church. So, I don't know, it's kind of a sobering thought, but I know the people that seem to be struggling the most are the guys that have lost their $1 million, business, and can't imagine, the ones that are doing good are the ones that let go of life and abundance and upward mobility. They're the ones that have already been doing downward mobility, downsizing their houses, trying to get extra, money and time with people, and just to try to be available. Those are the ones that seem to be smiling the most. And I think you guys can take that posture, even if you're 25 or 30,
It's a good word, man. Love you, dude.
Last thought.
Give it to us.
Have some fun. Figure out what you like to do. Make a commitment. Remember Walter Brueggemann? You ever read his book about the Sabbath as a form of resistance to the empire? Make your Sabbath about having some frickin' fun. Like, seriously, it should be built in that your spiritual formation is about you've got to let levity in here. Okay. So whatever it is, whoever you like hanging with, make it like a weekly Sabbath experience for yourself. If you do not put the oxygen on yourself, when everybody else can't get their oxygen mask to work, then you're useless as boobs on a goose. Okay, so you gotta Sabbath, and Sabbath with community and some fun is like oxygen, baby. I want to make sure I'm here. I can carry some of my friends. So if you're diving in depression and anxiety, call it out, ask for help, rent a funny movie, stop watching dramas, like watch some Sebastian Maniscalco. So what I do before I go to bed every night, okay? No Stephen Colbert, it's too much news. I go Jimmy Fallon, do a little 2 fingers of some nice bourbon. And if Fallon isn't, funny enough, I go Sebastian Maniscalco, watch some, okay? That's my last word, all right?
Yes, bro. We love you. Come to Portland soon and visit.
I will.
And I will come to Alton finally.
Anytime, bro. We're just waiting.
All right, my guy.
Hey, love you guys. Take
Love
care.
you.
We'll see you.
Love you. Thank you.